Do you think organized crime is a man's game? Meet the women who controlled the money, steered the networks, and ordered death. From Long Island to Sinaloa, they were wives, mothers, and bosses. The mask comes off tonight. In the quiet suburbs of Long Island, where manicured lawns stretch endlessly and luxury cars glide through pristine streets, a darker truth lurked just beneath the surface. Kimberly Gotti, a name forever tied to the fiery legacy of the Gambino crime family, was never just another suburban housewife. She was the wife of John Jr. Gotti, the son of the infamous Teflon Don, John Gotti Sr., who once turned New York's underworld into a global spectacle. By marrying into this dynasty, Kimberly didn't just wed a man, she walked straight into the beating heart of a mafia empire that had reigned for decades. She mastered the art of deception with chilling precision, outwardly the image of a devoted mother and refined Long Island woman, while behind the closed doors of her lavish home lay financial ledgers, laundering schemes, and decisions where a single mistake could cost lives. When John Jr. faced racketeering charges in the 2000s, Kimberly became the family's hidden backbone, managing their most sensitive finances and keeping the Gambinos afloat as federal prosecutors closed in. What made Kimberly truly terrifying was her ability to separate two worlds, one of schoolyards, neighborhood gatherings, and garden parties, and another of cold, calculated transactions where blood and money flowed side by side. Even seasoned FBI agents who had tracked the Gambinos for decades admitted they were astonished by her sophistication. And then, when Kimberly's name surfaced again during a shocking 2023 schoolyard brawl, the public gasped. It was a reminder that the Gotti legacy hadn't vanished. It had merely shifted, cloaked in the guise of a woman who seemed harmless, but whose shadow still carried the weight of a dynasty built on crime and fear. In Staten Island, New York, where ocean waves lap quietly against the shore and small neighborhoods seem calm, there was a name that captured both public fascination and underworld attention: Drea Dita D'Onzo. She was not only the wife of Lee D'Onzo, a notorious associate of the Gambino family, but also a woman whose life became the bridge between two clashing worlds: the glitter of television fame and the ruthless reality of organized crime. When she joined the reality series Mob Wives, 2011 and 2016, Dita quickly emerged as one of its central figures, known for her blunt honesty, striking appearance, and explosive temper. Audiences were enthralled by a woman unafraid to speak openly, living boldly in a world where loyalty was paid in blood and betrayal often meant death. Yet, behind the glare of the cameras, a far darker truth was waiting to be revealed. In December 2019, steel doors slammed open as FBI agents stormed her Staten Island home, tearing away the glamorous facade. The raid uncovered a shocking reality. Dita wasn't just the face of a TV show. She was directly tied to narcotics operations linked to the Gambino organization. Charges of drug possession and intent to distribute shattered her public image, transforming a television star into a criminal suspect under federal scrutiny. What made Dita's story so chilling was the contrast: adored celebrity on screen, but a functioning participant in an empire of crime. As justice closed in, she struck a plea deal, avoiding a long sentence and securing her release in 2020. Yet the stain remained, a permanent reminder that organized crime doesn't always stay hidden in the shadows. Sometimes it stands under the bright lights, broadcast to millions of unsuspecting American homes. In the chaotic world of crime, where daring heists and sprawling drug networks collide with the bright lights of Hollywood, the name Love Machki emerges as a tale of contradiction and tragedy. Born in the 1970s, Love stepped into the underworld as the fiancée of Chris Paciello, a reckless outlaw tied to the Bonanno crime family. But Chris was no ordinary gangster. He was the man who bankrupted car dealerships with audacious thefts, a drug dealer so cunning that his exploits inspired the Hollywood movie Gone in 60 Seconds. For Chris, Love was more than just a companion. She was quickly drawn into his shadowy empire, a world where money, narcotics, and violence mixed into a deadly cocktail. When she was arrested in Staten Island in 2012 on charges of possession and distribution of narcotics, the truth surfaced. Love was no innocent bystander. Evidence showed she was actively involved in Paciello's operations, a vital link in a criminal network stretching from New York to Florida. The story grew even darker with chilling confessions. I poisoned people. I shot them. I stabbed my ex-boyfriend in front of his mother. These words painted the image of a woman both alluring and dangerous, one who wielded violence as a weapon of survival. Yet instead of fading into the shadows, love stepped into the spotlight with VH1's Mob Wives, 2012 to 2016, transforming her criminal past into entertainment for millions. With her explosive personality and unfiltered revelations, she became one of the show's most controversial and captivating figures. Today, Love Machki remains present, using social media to share her story and maintain her connection with fans. Straddling the fragile line between reality and spectacle, between showbiz glitz and underworld darkness, Love Machki stands as living proof that sometimes the most dangerous figures are the very ones we recognize from our television screens. In the damp, shadowy alleys of New York, where the ghost of the Bonanno family once spread like a dark stain, there was a woman who made even the toughest mobsters tread carefully, Andrea Giovino. Born in the 1950s, Andrea entered the underworld not only as the girlfriend of John Fogerty, a prominent Bonanno member, but as an essential player directly involved in laundering money and distributing narcotics. She wasn't just a bystander in the background. Andrea sat at the table where every illicit dollar was counted and rerouted. Loans to drug lords, stacks of cash converted into legitimate assets, these all passed through her clever and calculating hands. Her financial acumen made her an invaluable asset to the family, but it also meant that if she ever turned against them, she would become a lethal threat. That pivotal moment came in 2010, when Andrea was arrested on charges of money laundering and narcotics distribution. Facing the terrifying prospect of decades behind bars, possibly spending the rest of her life in prison, she was forced to make an impossible choice: remain loyal to the Bonanno family or cooperate with federal prosecutors in order to survive. The truth was as chilling as it was shocking. Andrea chose cooperation. It wasn't just a legal maneuver, it was a death sentence hanging above her head. For in Bonanno history, betrayal was paid for in blood. Whispers of vengeance, cold stares from former associates, and the constant specter of assassination shadowed her every step. Andrea Giovino became more than just a cooperating witness. She stood as living proof of the razor-thin line between loyalty and survival. A woman who dared to defy a mafia empire and who carried in her heart the unshakable fear that any street corner, any shadow, could conceal the final bullet meant for her. In the world of international narcotics, where billion-dollar shipments slip across borders and blood stains the streets of Mexico, the name Emma Coronel Aispuro echoes like a dangerous whisper. Born in 1989, a U.S.-Mexican citizen, Emma entered the life of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the infamous leader of the Sinaloa cartel, not merely as his wife, but as a steadfast ally within the most powerful drug empire on earth. With her striking beauty, gentle smile, and the poise of a movie star, Emma easily convinced the public she was simply the woman behind the man. But the chilling truth was far different. She coordinated communications, ensured cartel operations continued even while El Chapo sat inside a maximum security prison, and, most shockingly, was accused of helping orchestrate his daring 2015 escape through a mile-long tunnel dug beneath his cell. On February 22, 2021, at Dulles International Airport, camera flashes burst as federal agents led Emma away in handcuffs. The charges against her were staggering: conspiracy to distribute cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and marijuana, along with aiding one of the most legendary prison breaks in modern history. The world was stunned as El Chapo's muse was unmasked as a high-level conspirator. What made Emma's story even more dramatic was her bold decision in June 2021. She pleaded guilty. In November, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison, a surprisingly light punishment given the severity of her crimes. When she walked free in September 2023, questions swirled across both sides of the border. Was Emma truly seeking to leave behind the enormous shadow of El Chapo, or was she still a hidden piece on the bloody chessboard of international crime? In the history of America's war on drugs, few stories are as dramatic and layered with intrigue as that of Viviana Lopez, Mia Flores. and Valerie Gaitan Olivia Flores. Two women who seemed destined to live only as the wives of traffickers, yet became pivotal figures in one of the largest narcotics cases in U.S. history. They married the notorious Flores twins, Pedro and Margarito, the cartel distributors who funneled staggering quantities of drugs from Mexico into the heart of American cities. But Viviana and Valerie were not passive companions. They were directly involved in running sophisticated money laundering operations, legitimizing hundreds of thousands of dirty dollars and disguising the cartel's profits beneath the veil of legality. For over a decade, they lived double lives. Outwardly glamorous wives, enjoying luxury homes, designer labels, exotic vacations. Secretly, they were criminal accountants, safeguarding the financial backbone of a transnational drug empire. When the Flores twins were arrested in Chicago in 2021, the illusion shattered. The charges of money laundering carried the threat of decades in federal prison. The true climax came when Pedro and Margarito Flores struck a deal with U.S. prosecutors, becoming star witnesses in the conviction of El Chapo Guzman. That betrayal altered the course of cartel history. Their wives, Viviana and Valerie, were swept into the federal witness protection program, their names and lives erased from the public eye. From then on, they became living phantoms, hidden away from the cartel they once served, known only through the book they co-authored, Cartel Wives, 2010. The memoir laid bare the brutal reality of loving men who built empires on violence and cocaine, the constant fear, the lure of wealth, and the devastating cost of betrayal. Though they escaped the cartel's grip, the price of disloyalty still hangs heavy. For in Sinaloa, loyalty is paid in blood, and betrayal is always settled in death. In the bloody shadows of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CGNG, where the name El Mencho strikes fear across Mexico, one woman emerged from her family's criminal dynasty, Jessica Johanna Oseguera Gonzalez. Born in 1986, Jessica carried two nationalities, American and Mexican, a deadly advantage for international crime, but also a curse that made her a prime target for law enforcement. Unlike traditional mafia women relegated to the sidelines, Jessica was entrusted by her father, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, with crucial responsibilities. She oversaw businesses that appeared legitimate in the United States, but were, in reality, fronts for CJNG's vast money laundering operations. Restaurants, companies, and luxury properties she managed were all cogs in the cartel's financial machine, legalizing millions in narcotics profits. In February 2020, Jessica was arrested in Washington, D.C., in a stunning federal operation. The charges, money laundering, and running businesses that served as fronts for one of the world's most dangerous cartels. In a U.S. courtroom, the glamorous facade collapsed, revealing the truth. Jessica was not merely El Mencho's daughter. She was the keeper of CJNG's vault on American soil. In 2021, she was sentenced to 30 months in prison, a punishment seen as light considering her influence. By 2023, Jessica was released, but the cartel's shadow never loosened its grip. Her mother, Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, was also implicated in CJNG's operations, underscoring the cartel's nature as a family business, where women were no longer silent witnesses but power brokers managing vast illicit fortunes. Jessica Johanna stands as living proof of the chilling evolution of modern cartels, sophisticated, financialized, and transcending borders. Every dirty dollar flowing through CJNG's empire carried her fingerprints, a reminder that the cartel's power was not just built on violence, but also on the financial expertise of a woman born into crime and forged in its relentless grip. In the world of Mexican narcotics, where power almost always rests in the hands of men, one name rose as a defiant challenge: Guadalupe Fernandez Valencia, known by her chilling alias La Patrona, the Boss. Born in 1960, Guadalupe did not merely slip into the ranks of the Sinaloa cartel. She climbed to the very top, becoming one of the most powerful lieutenants of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Unlike the silent women hidden behind the curtains of cartel life, Valencia was the financial brain, the keeper of vast laundering networks that transformed mountains of cocaine and heroin cash into real estate, shell companies, and seemingly legitimate bank accounts. Every transaction she executed had the power to sustain an empire or destroy it if it fell into the hands of the authorities. For this reason, La Patrona was both respected and feared as much as any cold-blooded male boss. In 2016, Guadalupe was captured in Mexico. Her arrest set off a tense extradition process.